90% of all humanoid robots shipped globally last year were made in China. Not the US, not Japan, China. And the one American startup trying to change that just raised nearly $1 billion, with Google, Mercedes-Benz, and John Deere writing the checks. Meanwhile, in the software world, a free open-source coding agent is pulling developers away from tools that cost $200 a month, and it's backed by one of the biggest fintech companies on the planet. Let's get into it. Apptronik, a robotics startup based in Austin, Texas, just closed a $520 million Series A extension, bringing its total Series A funding to $935 million. The company is now valued at $5.5 billion, roughly triple what it was worth just a year ago. The round was co-led by B Capital and Google, with strategic participation from Mercedes-Benz, John Deere, AT&T Ventures, and the Qatar Investment Authority. That investor list matters. These aren't just venture capital firms placing speculative bets. Mercedes-Benz builds cars. John Deere builds heavy machinery. These are companies that run massive physical operations, and they're putting serious money behind a humanoid robot they believe can actually work on their factory floors. The robot in question is called Apollo. It stands about 5'8", weighs around 160 pounds, runs for 4 hours on a battery pack, and can carry up to 55 pounds. It's designed for the kind of physically demanding, repetitive work that warehouses and factories desperately need filled: unloading trailers, sorting inventory, tending machinery, and transporting components. And here's where it gets real. Apollo is not just a demo unit on a trade show stage. Early versions are already operational in designated work zones at Mercedes-Benz facilities and GXO logistics warehouses, performing actual tasks alongside human workers. The robots work within areas monitored by external sensors and light curtains. If a human steps into the zone, Apollo pauses. On the AI side, Apptronik has partnered with Google DeepMind. Apollo is powered by Gemini Robotics, which lets the robot watch demonstrations, follow natural language instructions, plan multi-step actions, and handle unfamiliar objects without being explicitly reprogrammed for each new task. The company's roots go back to 2013, when its founders were building robots at the University of Texas at Austin for a NASA DARPA robotics challenge. NASA still maintains a partnership with Apptronik today. Here's the bigger picture. According to research firm Omdia, nearly 90% of all humanoid robots shipped globally in 2025 were Chinese-made. China's Unitree sold around 5,500 units. Shanghai-based Agibot sold over 5,000. Meanwhile, the top American companies, Figure AI, Agility Robotics, and Tesla, each shipped roughly 150. That is a staggering gap. This is starting to look a lot like the EV playbook, where China built a dominant manufacturing position while the rest of the world was still prototyping. Apptronik is positioning itself as the leading American contender to close that gap. But it's not just about national competition. The real signal here is who's investing. When Mercedes-Benz and John Deere put money into a humanoid robot company, they're not making a symbolic gesture. They're signaling that they see a path to deploying these machines in their actual operations at scale. That is a fundamentally different investment thesis than backing a cool demo. The humanoid robotics market is projected to exceed 100,000 units by 2027, a six-fold increase from 2025, and by 2035, analysts at Morgan Stanley estimate the market could reach $38 billion. Apptronik wants to be selling robots at under $50,000 per unit, which would make Apollo competitive with several years of a warehouse worker's salary. The company plans to use this new capital to expand its Austin headquarters, open a California office, and hire at least 200 more people on top of its current 300-plus workforce. They're also teasing a brand new robot design set to debut later in 2026. The key thing to watch is whether these pilot deployments with Mercedes and GXO graduate from designated test zones into full-scale commercial operations. That transition, from proof of concept to production, is the real milestone. So $1 billion bet is being placed on physical AI, robots that can perceive the real world and act on it. But there's a parallel revolution happening in the software layer of AI, specifically in the tools developers use to actually build things. And right now a price war is breaking out that could reshape how every indie developer and startup founder writes code. If you're a developer who uses AI coding tools, you're probably familiar with Claude Code, Anthropic's terminal-based coding agent that lets you build, debug, and manage entire projects through natural language commands. It's powerful. It's also expensive. Claude Code Access starts at $20 a month on the Pro plan, but serious users quickly find themselves on the Max plan, which runs $100 or $200 per month depending on usage tier. The $200 Max plan gives you 20 times the usage of Pro and access to Anthropic's most powerful model, Claude 4.5 Opus. But even at that price, some developers report hitting daily rate limits within 30 minutes of intensive work. Now enter Goose. Goose is a free open-source AI coding agent built by Block, the fintech company behind Square, Cash App, and Afterpay. It launched on GitHub and has exploded in popularity, racking up over 27,000 stars, more than 350 contributors, and over 100 releases. The latest version shipped in January 2026. Here's what makes Goose different. First, it's completely model agnostic. While Claude Code only works with Anthropic's own models, Goose lets you plug in whatever language model you want. OpenAI, Meta's Llama, Google's Gemma, Alibaba's Qwen, DeepSeek, or any model you run locally through tools like Allama. Second, it runs entirely on your machine. Your code, your prompts, your outputs, none of it leaves your computer unless you choose to route through a cloud provider. That's a massive deal for developers working on proprietary code or anyone who cares about privacy. Third, it integrates with over 3,000 MCP servers. That's the Model Context Protocol, an emerging standard for connecting AI agents to external services like GitHub, Jira, Slack, Docker, Kubernetes, and databases. And fourth, and this is the kicker, it costs nothing. $0. No subscription fees, no rate limits, no usage caps. Block isn't just releasing this as a side project either. 60% of Block's own workforce, that's roughly 12,000 employees, uses Goose weekly. The company reports 50 to 75% development time savings internally. They've contributed it to the Linux Foundation and are actively funding external development through grants. This matters because the cost of AI-assisted development is becoming a real barrier for independent developers and small teams. When the best tools cost $200 a month per seat, that adds up fast, especially for bootstrapped startups or solo founders shipping products on tight budgets. Goose represents a broader trend: developer pushback against the rising cost of AI tooling. And it's not just about price. The model-agnostic design means you're not locked into any single AI provider's ecosystem. If a better model comes out tomorrow from any company in the world, you can plug it into Goose and keep working. That flexibility is significant in a landscape where model leadership changes every few months. Now, to be fair, Claude Code still has advantages. Head-to-head comparisons show that Anthropic's top-tier models tend to produce more accurate results on complex edge case tasks on the first or second attempt. The reasoning quality of cloud-hosted frontier models is genuinely hard to match with local alternatives. But Goose, with something like Qwen 3 Coder running through Allama, is closing that gap, and for many common development tasks, reviewers say the difference is negligible. The real question is whether free and open source can sustain momentum against well-funded commercial tools. Block's deep internal investment suggests Goose isn't going anywhere. Watch for how Anthropic responds to the pricing pressure. Claude Code's rate limit controversy has already pushed some developers to cancel subscriptions entirely. If Goose continues gaining traction, and the GitHub trajectory suggests it will, Anthropic may need to rethink its pricing tiers or offer a more competitive free tier. Also, keep an eye on MCP adoption. As more tools standardize around that protocol, model-agnostic agents like Goose become even more powerful. Whether it's a humanoid robot unloading trucks in a Mercedes factory, or a free coding agent running on a developer's laptop, the pattern is the same. AI is moving from impressive demos to tools people actually use every day. And the economics of who gets access are being decided right now. If you want to stay on top of stories like these, hit subscribe. We cover AI and tech news daily. See you in the next one.